You're looking at the original La Gloria Cubana Miami, Florida factory. This factory was owned by Ernesto Carrillo. Back in 2003 when we started, this corner with the building moving that way, this would have been the only factory rolling cigars really at the time for consumption in the United States. The front that you're looking at is now just a cigar store, but the rest of it, and at one point I forget, they might have had like 20 rollers or something in there. It was the heart of La Gloria Cubana. Back in 2002, 3, there were new boutique brands. There was a cigar boom in the early 90s, 93 with Cigar Aficionado and all that. And that ushered in a new era. And that boom lasted till about 98. And the cigar business basically crashed. Follow me and I'll show you where the original Rey de los Habanos, you might know it as My Father, Pepin Garcia. Right now, unfortunately, what you're looking at, these dollar stores and sneaker stores and all that, this was all formerly the Gloria Cubana factory. If you look at the roof, it's a beautiful roof. They redid it when General Cigar Company bought the La Gloria Cubana brand, and unfortunately they didn't keep the factory here in Miami. It's very expensive to make cigars in Miami. It takes a lot of work. But for me, there's a personal connection having come from Cuba at 6 years old. My family were tobacco growers, always was inspired by it. My father was one of Cuba's foremost writers, spoke out against Castro and was in prison and finally was able to be released in 1980. But I always had a passion for cigars. And here is where it started. It looks junky, because it is right now, but in this little place, which is now basically a dollar store, I believe, chunked up back in 2003, you would have walked in here, right, and it was actually this building. And there's an article I took out, not an article, an ad I took out in Cigar Aficionado, which I'll try to show you, which showed myself, Pepin Garcia and his son, in front of this same location. There's a sign here that said El Rey de los Habanos. And inside, you would have seen maybe, at max, 7 rollers. At the time when I walked in here back then, nobody was paying attention to these people. Myself and another brand, Tatuaje, Pete Johnson, were basically first to really see this place and see what the potential was. I was amazed when I walked in at the style of cigars that were being made, but I was very curious, having worked for Perdomo Cigars for a few years beforehand, to know where were they getting the tobacco? Where was this tobacco coming from? Back in 2002 and 3, Nicaragua was not what it was today. And that's where a gentleman called Eduardo Fernandez, who partnered up with Pepin Garcia, comes into play. And he helped partner and start this factory here on 8th Street, not far from where we currently make the Padilla Miami. And back then it was a whole different world, but slowly but surely we started getting recognition. Cigar Aficionado came out with their first top 25 cigars of the year back then. We made the list, Tatuaje made the list, we continue to get very high ratings. And now today I'll show you where the Padilla Miami continues to be made. It's here in Miami, very small production, but very much still made in that tradition that we always wanted to keep, which is Cuban style cigar, very much in line with our culture. As you saw across the street, that was the original home of the Padilla Miami at El Rey de los Habanos factory run by Pepin Garcia. Unfortunately, the factory was closed in about 2010, I believe, and they opened up a factory in Nicaragua, a much bigger factory. I still wanted to continue on with the Padilla Miami legacy, since it was really one of our first cigars and award-winning cigars, even though we make many different cigars. And today, behind me, is the new home of the Padilla Miami, which we've been making cigars here since 2012, 2011, and it continues on today, run by a great lady named Sandra Cobas. Probably about 8 Cuban rollers inside, producing, my opinion is, the best Cuban style premium cigars on the market. It's almost 3 p.m. It is 3 p.m. So all the rollers are almost all gone. They start very early in the morning here in this very small factory at Titan. This lady will do, like I said, 110 cigars today. That's very small production compared to Nicaragua. When we first started working with Titan de Bronce, the factory was really not that well known at all and didn't have the brands today that you see working with it. When I first started making cigars in Miami in early 2003, 2004, across the street where I took you earlier, there was La Gloria Cubana, and it was starting to close down. It was bought by a big cigar company called General Cigar Company. And right next to there was where I showed you earlier, was Titan de Bronce. When we first walked in here, it had tremendous potential, but they didn't have the number one thing that you need in a factory, wherever you are, and that's great tobacco. They didn't have that connection, they didn't have that access. Through myself, some other people, we were able to put them in contact with the right growers and get them the tobacco that they needed. One of them was Aganorsa, other one was Oliva Tobacco out of Tampa. And when those companies heard about what we were doing here, they started offering this small factory some of their top of the top tobaccos that you could get. And we're very privileged to have that. And that really took this factory to the next stage. This is the kind of work that the factory here in Miami is now making. And since that time, since we first started coming here, the allocates haven't stopped. We've been one of the top 25 cigars of the year several times, very high ratings. And if you're ever down in Miami, come down 8th Street, 11th Avenue. That's where the name came from, the Padilla Miami Inn 11. Come on in, they're very friendly. Yes, we are in the time of COVID, so just be aware, might have a mask and all that. It's been a long year with the COVID situation where the factory had to be closed down briefly, and demand for cigars has skyrocketed. So we appreciate your patience as we try to get these extremely boutique, premium, small production cigars out to you. Some of the things that make the Padilla Miami stand out from so many out there. The production is very limited. For example, we might do 2 or 3 runs a year maximum of the Padilla Miami. We're only going to do 2,000 in October. It's all we have the capacity to do. In a Toro size, we're going to release them in 10-count boxes like we've done it before. Again, it's very small production. The roller here only do about 100, 110 cigars a day, where in Nicaragua, a pair that I just described will do about 500 to 600 a pair of cigars in a day.